Hello everyone, third day, third video in a row, and today I'm going to be watching this clip of Nick Fuentes on the No Jumper podcast, and of course there is also Sneeko here. So without further ado, let's hop right into it.
You said that Nick is a white supremacist. I'm curious to what he said specifically that makes you think that.
Well, I did hear leaked audio of you comparing a white woman having sex with a dog to having sex with a black man and saying that it was basically the same level of degeneracy, and that was like leaked audio, so I feel like that was kind of telling about what you might say behind the scenes.
Yeah, and
I'll slow this down a little bit, but yeah, that's a good qualification there. Like, you know, like it was leaked audio. It wasn't like really you were making a joke or doing something like, you know, for stream. It was leaked. This is how you are in private. This is what you actually believe, is what that would seem to imply. That's a good qualifier.
Maybe that was a joke?
Well, no, I mean,
And of course, Sneeko says maybe that's a joke. What about that sounds like a joke? And even if it is a joke, what's the implication of the joke? Why is it funny? Oh, it's because it's comparing black people to dogs. And it's Nick Fuentes doing that and looking at all of Nick Fuentes' other beliefs, like how he believes that there's a genetic difference between the races and that it determines things like intelligence levels. You know, that's which Nick seems to imply has a negative connotation to it. It's a interesting perspective by Sneeko.
I can explain the.
Didn't sound like a joke.
Well, hang on. I can explain the context of that. And the thing is, I'm going to answer that. But first, I want to say the better question is, because I saw your stream yesterday, full disclosure, Adam, on Twitch, where you went to the SPLC, which is an advocacy group.
And I'll acknowledge that the SPLC has deemed a lot of people and different podcasts that I enjoy like basically hate groups. So I don't put a lot of faith in their opinion off a rip. So I did go there to get some information on stream. But I'm not saying that I deem them a respectable organization.
Well, and that's fair enough. But I'm saying the point is, and this is the question that should be asked about that, they're advocates. That's an advocacy group, and they're paid to mine. I've been doing streaming for 6 years. I produce thousands and thousands of hours of content. They're paid to mine, you know, the 10 or 15 worst things, 10 seconds. Like, let me.
Even if this were true, right? Let's say that what what Nick Fuentes is saying is true here, because I don't know about the organization that he's talking about. You still said the thing that they have, like the clip they have of you, like you still said that. It doesn't really matter if they were going out of their way to find it, so long as it wasn't like, you know, taken out of context, really. Which, how can you take out of context you comparing black men to dogs?
Let me ask you, you don't know the circumstances surrounding that clip, but it was provided there for you in a 10-second bite for you to get a certain impression of me. And that clip is from 5 or 6 years ago. I know you might say, well, it doesn't matter how old it is because the content is so offensive, but it's...
Which is, exactly what I would say. Except for, like, you were, like, also still an adult at that point in time, I'm pretty sure. Like, I'm pretty sure Nick's not, like, incredibly young. I'm not saying, like, Nick's super old either, but I think Nick's, like, what, anywhere from probably, like, around mid-20s-ish. So, you know, 5-6 years ago, Nick was probably, like, early 20s. Yeah, you know that that's wrong. You know that's not a good thing to believe or say.
Sort of begs a certain question, which is, you know, why does this exist?
And the more important part of that is that you, as a person, haven't changed much. You haven't implied in any way, shape, or form that your beliefs have really changed. And if I had to guess, you'll probably go on to defend, like, the take that you had throughout the duration of this clip.
Who's paying for this? To what end? Why is the SPLC? Because at the time, I'm an 18-year-old kid.
And now Nick is dog whistling about Jewish people, talking about who's paying for this. Like, okay, come on, Nick. It's not about that. It's just that you are a disgusting person, and unironically, actually, like a degenerate.
The circumstances about that is...
So I would understand why a hate group, or sorry, not a hate group, but an organization that, like, looks at hate group or, like, hate speech or stuff like that, if that's what the organization Nick's talking about does, that would make sense to me why they would be concerned about an individual like you.
I was at a job training, and it was like 3 a.m., it's late at night, it was for a political thing, and I was saying that I'm against race mixing. I think that people should marry their own kind.
Yeah, so Nick is going to defend the take that he had.
I want a white wife. That's a value that I have. My race matters to me. My identity matters to me. I want my kids to look like me. I want my
even if that, like recognizing this, right? That's a value that you have, which, you know, it's a weird value to have, but nonetheless, you can have it. But it's just a value that you can have. Right. Once you start pushing that value onto other people, or like wanting to implement it based on policy, or like, you know, calling other people engaging in it degenerative, or projecting that on other people, that's the issue.
Kids to look like me. I think that's a positive value that I think other people should share as well. I don't judge people that are mixed race. I mean, some people say I'm mixed race. My dad's half Mexican.
And the only reason why Nick brings this up is because no one actually believes that Nick is mixed raced. But he can use it as an example to try and make it seem like he's not racist because some people view him as like, you know, mixed race or whatever. But the thing is no one actually believes that. And what Nick is talking about is nationality or like ethnic origin, which actually it doesn't have anything to do with race. If you look at Nick, you can very clearly tell Nick is white.
My mom's Italian. Some people would say that's mixed race. Obviously, I don't hate people that are mixed race or people that race mix, but it's just a value for me. And anyways, I was explaining that. And this girl picks up her phone because I'm saying something that's contrary, because you can't be against race mixing, even though everybody was, and every race other than whites still is.
Yeah, everybody was. That doesn't mean that it's a good thing now, right? You know, things progress, things change. Child labor used to be legal, slavery used to be like an okay thing. There's a lot of things that have changed that used to not be good. So that's a weird point. And then additionally, saying that every other race is that way now. First of all, that's not true. Like the civil rights movement was literally fighting, you know, against that. So like people could marry and have like interracial children, all that stuff. Like that was a thing that was fought for. And additionally, even if it were true, like other races were doing that doesn't make it right. That's still that would be a bad thing if they thought that other races were degenerative to intermingle with in a sexual way.
Even black people say that all the time. I want to have black kids. I want to raise a black family. I'm black and proud. If black people say that, nobody blinks an eye. But when Nick says it, people are automatically.
No, I would also say that is kind of weird. Like I think that, you know, it's an understandable thing, like for you to have that value if you want to on your own, but if you start projecting it on other people, then it's weird. And I additionally think like it's even weird to hold. I think it's like understandable as in like you have a right to hold it, but like I think you should probably question where that come from. Like if you think that other races are that like gross or weird that you would never even imagine yourself being able to fall in love with one or like raise a family with, like that is weird.
Assuming that it's something racist. No, and I think in that context, I think that could be a joke. And I think that if you record any white kids Call of Duty lobby when they're 18 years old, or you record anybody at 3 a.m. when they're not knowing, I've made jokes like that. I make jokes about every single race.
That's not a joke. And even if you did make jokes like that, you're just making a racist joke, right? You can still make offensive jokes.
Doesn't mean that you're a racist person, but nowadays you have to be very careful at any moment because you never know when someone's gonna record.
Well, wait, but so the point is, I'm saying like, so that's the part that wasn't recorded. Is I'm saying I'm against race mixing. Well, she sees me.
Oh, so just you justifying why you believe the disgusting joke wasn't okay. Okay.
Saying something that you're not supposed to say and says, I'm going to cancel this guy. So she gets her phone out and starts recording and says, hey, Nick, so do you think that having sex with a black guy is the same as having sex with a dog? So I didn't say that. Those were not my words. I was saying I'm against race mixing.
Oh, those weren't my words. I was just saying that race mixing is degenerative and gross. I didn't say that it was actually the same as having a sex with dog. Like, dude, shut up. Like, shut up.
She gets the phone out and frames it that way. And I said no.
Because you did frame it that way. And you saying no to that? I haven't seen the clip, but it doesn't really seem like it. But even if you said no to it, you've still done all the justification work right here. Like you're defending your take right here. You're saying that race mixing, and you've said it throughout this video, that race mixing is degenerative and something that you frown down upon and don't think other people should do. Like you just said that.
I said no, and Adam, you saw the clip. I said no, it's not the same. I said, but they both be degenerate. I said they both be wrong. And then the same way.
So you did say, you said that they both would be degenerate. Just because you didn't say one is as degenerative as the other, right? You still believe that they're both degenerative acts. You literally are comparing having sex with like black people to having sex with an animal. Like that is disgusting. You're a disgusting person. You are racist.
That I would say, yeah, incest is wrong. Is incest the same as bestiality? No. Is rape the same as bestiality? You know, these are all things.
Sure, they're not the same, but you're saying they're all bad. You're saying they're all disgusting, repugnant things. Like, what do you mean?
I would consider wrong. Yeah, but
Nico just hops on board and is.
So this Nico's even recognizing that he's saying they're both degenerate. What do you? They're both degenerate. That he's not making a joke. He's defending it. Like what? His joke is actually on like even if it is a joke, it's on something that he believes, something actually offensive and like actually atrocious.
Basically, like, oh yeah, it's fucked up.
I heard him explain this whole thing before.
But you think race mixing is bad?
I don't think race mixing is bad, but I respect his opinion to think that he wants to further the white race and have white kids.
See,
I'm not going to judge.
I mean, sure, you can respect his opinion to do that so long as he doesn't infringe on anyone else's, like, ability to exercise their life, but you can still think that it's weird. You can still criticize it. You don't have to just defend it by saying, like, oh, like, it's just a joke, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, you can recognize he has a right to think that way and still know it's wrong and be able to say it's wrong. This is insane.
Judge what he wants to do.
I would have thought in any other timeline that Nick saying, like, oh, white people should just be with other white people, I would have thought that would be a super controversial statement, but it's hard for me to really take it that controversially when
it is a controversial statement. It's pretty gross. Like
just be with other white people. I would have thought
because it's just weird. Like it probably your reason is like you have the right to think that way, but the reason why you would it has to stem from like some like. You got to do some self-analysis there because you got to be thinking of like other races like as like lesser or something in some way to never even be able to imagine yourself to fall in love and having a family with a person of a different race. Like that is insanity.
That would be a super controversial statement, but it's hard for me to really take it that controversially when we've had people like Tariq Nasheed on here who clearly says the same thing about black people. Kevin Samuels basically said the same thing about black people.
Sure, those people are also disgusting and repugnant if they do say that.
People say that all the time. That's the problem wasn't that.
White people don't say that. White people are not allowed to say that.
He just said
yeah, Nick just said it as that person was about to point out. He literally did.
Well, that's why he's canceled. He's on a no-fly list.
That's not actually just the reason why he's canceled. The conservatives say this all the time. Tucker Carlson does it, and he has like the most watched like news network. He talks about like what's it called? The white genocide and like how like the white replacement theory. That's literally like Tucker Carlson talks about that all the time. So does Steven Crowder. I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Shapiro does too. Like all these conservative pundits do, and they get away with it.
It's just hard for me to really take issue with him saying that when I feel like there's so many people of other races who basically say the same thing publicly and aren't really like held in any kind of negative light for it.
I think that's why Nick was saying that it's easier to be a minority nowadays. I think when he talks about that, he's talking about freedom of speech. I think I'm a protected class, being Asian.
That doesn't even. It's easier to be a minority because of freedom of speech. Like that's insane. Republicans will get triggered for you, like for gay teachers, like being themselves in like classrooms, like for just even existing. Like you would talk about like minorities having like or marginalized people in general, like gender minorities or sexual minorities. If you're taking it in consideration, not just like a racial perspective, like gay people, they get and trans people, they get shit on just for like existing from conservatives, like let alone like speaking. Like you see all their like there was a recent clip I saw about like these kids in a school, like there was a mural and there was like a trans flag in it, and like the conservatives there were like protesting and trying to get the school to take it down, and they were saying that it was like demonic and shit. Like that's a form of speech in which these marginalized people aren't able to partake in.
Black and white.
And also like Kanye West is a minority as well, and he's getting criticized right now and canceled basically for what he said about Jewish people, because what he said was anti-Semitic, and what he said about George Floyd was pretty fucked up.
I'm able to talk about a lot of things and make jokes that Nick is not capable of, but even then, you can still toe the line and get canceled, as we've both been terminated. Right. Yeah, I still haven't seen you. I disagree. I've heard Destiny bring up that same instance. I'm curious. So, like, what do you think Nick has said that's made you think he's a white supremacist?
Well, what we just talked about would be a pretty good start. How Nick thinks that race mixing is degenerative. That would make me think that Nick is probably a white supremacist. Like he can have the right to think that way, but that doesn't mean that the way he thinks is good or even okay.
The black
from a moral perspective.
People's hands should be cut off at the airport.
Oh, well, I don't mean that.
Like what? In what context?
Because it's part of a joke. It's part because I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's a joke. Talking about like cutting off black people's hands at the airport. That's not. Especially at the point where you're saying that you think that they're degenerative, like, or intermingling with them in a sexual way is degenerative. Degenerative, you want us to believe that you're joking and it doesn't actually rely on you having any implicit like negative feeling towards black people, that you're saying you're joking about wanting to cut off their hands. Like that story makes no sense. Like that's just implausible as hell.
Because I'm talking about how, you know, there was this development where I think it was American Airlines or one of the big airlines said that gay men or well, it's not just gay men. It's just that men can wear the girls' flight attendant uniform and the girls can wear the male flight attendant uniform.
All right, people, we just hit 300.
All right. I guess we're not going to see the rest of that clip, but, you know, okay, cool. I thought that was, you know, interesting clip to watch. It really shows how slippery Nick is and how he will admit what he believes, but will not admit that what he believes is what people are saying it is, which most of the time it actually is. And, you know, it's interesting to watch how slippery Nick is. But, you know, I'll catch y'all later. If you like the video, drop a like. Peace.